All right, here's a nice question that involves using quadratic equations to solve for the answer. It's a distance, speed, time kind of question, which are really useful using a table to figure that out. So the question has two parts, so I'm going to use this as the first part and the second row as the second part. Distance for the first one, 120. Speed, don't know. Let's call it S. Then he drove another 100 mile. Oh, the time. I don't know. Well, we'll worry about that in a sec. Then he drove another 100 miles, but he was 10 miles per hour slower. So his speed would be minus 10. Then they say the total trip was 4 hours. So the first part of the trip, I don't know how long that would be. So let's maybe just call it T. But I know that if the whole trip was 4 hours, then the second one has to be 4 subtract whatever he used up in the first part. So 4 subtract T. So there I've got two equations. Now dealing with these equations, your formula for them, you could write it as distance is equal to speed times time. Or you could write it as speed is equal to distance divided by time. Or you could write it as time is equal to the distance divided by the speed. All of these are the same formula, just manipulated. And what you want to do is find one of these formulas where you can solve for one of these variables. I think you could pick either time or speed. I'm going to pick speed. So I'm going to write each formula in this format here and then see if I can solve for S, and then I'll use substitution to solve for system of equations. So let's look at the first part of the trip. So the speed for the first part of the trip would be S. I guess let me just write this. First part of the trip. So S is equal to d over t. So S is equal to the distance 120 over the time was t. Okay, now let's look at the second part. And let's do a formula for it. Same formula, S equals d over t. So the speed for the second one was 10 slower. So this would be S minus 10 is equal to the distance was 100 over the time was 4 minus t. There. So now what I have two equations, both written in S and T, and both of these numbers are the same for each one. So what I can do is I can solve system of equations. Easiest way to solve this one for systems would be to solve by substitution. So I'm going to take this S here, I've solved for S, it's 120 over T. I'm going to take that and I'm going to plug it everywhere I see an S in the other equation, right there. So I'll come up with 120 over T minus 10 is equal to 100 over 4 minus T. Okay, substitution. Now I've got an equation where I've got fractions. So I need to come up with a lowest common denominator, which would be t times 4 minus t. And I'll multiply each term by that. So I'll take my 120 over t minus, I'll take my 10, and I'll take my 100 over 4 minus t. And I'll take each of those and multiply them by the lowest common denominator. Okay, so this one gets multiplied by a t times 4 minus t, a t times 4 minus t, and a t times 4 minus t. Okay, so here the t's factor of 1, they cancel out. So at the top there I just have 4 minus t times 120. Then this one I'll have, maybe initially I'll go, I have to worry about that minus there. why don't I multiply the 10 by the t first? So I'll have minus 10t, and then I'm going to multiply that by 4 minus t. Just rearrange that a little bit. Equals 4 minus t, factor of 1. So I just have 100 times t. Solving equations with fractions, fun stuff. Okay, now I don't have any fractions. I have to do some multiplying here. 120 times 4 would be 480 minus 120t. Now I'll take this and multiply it through. Make sure you are careful with that minus. So minus 10t times 4 would be minus 40t. Minus 10t times a minus t would be a positive 10t squared equals 100t. Now, since I've got a quadratic, I'm going to bring everything over to the left-hand side and write it in decreasing order. So 10t squared's first. Here I'd have minus 160t. If I bring this over, oh, that's another minus 100t. Okay, I've taken care of all those. Let's just have this plus 480 equals 0. So let's combine these. 10t squared minus 260t plus 480 equals 0. Feeling awful good. Looks like a nice t squared t in a number thing. There's a 10 in front. Hey, but each of them are divisible by 10. So let's just divide everything by 10. 0 divided by 10 is still 0. Now see if I can factor it. Things that multiply to 48 add up to minus 26. I did it before, and it's 24 and 2. So my answers are the time could be 24 hours, or the time could be 2 hours. I'm discounting this one because the total time of the trip was only 4 hours. And so the time, t, let's go up to see what that was. The time t was for the first part, was 2 hours. So if the total trip was 4 hours, the second part must have been 2 hours as well. Now I do have to figure out the speed. So the speed on each part of the trip. So let's figure out the speed for the first part. So s equals 120 over t. Let's write that. So now let's find speed. So s was 120 over t. So if he was going for 2 hours, it'd be 120 over 2, which would be 60 miles an hour. So he's going 60 miles an hour for the first hour. No, for the first part of the trip. I guess for the first 2 hours. And then his speed was 10 slower. So this is for the first part. So for the second part of the trip, his speed was s minus 10, or 50 miles per hour. Now, if we wanted to, we could check those. So we could say if he went 60 miles an hour for 2 hours, that'd give him 120 miles. And that's how far they said that he went the first time. And if he went 50 miles an hour for 2 hours, that'd be 100 miles. And that's exactly what they said his distance was for the second part. Okay, hopefully that helps in solving that question.